Hello. Hey, good evening, everybody. Glad to see that everybody's enjoying dinner. How is that? Yeah? You know, we do these monthly user group meetings, usually the fourth Wednesday of every month. This AKA Guy in a Cube. So these guys have shown up on their dime to volunteer for this event, including their own travel. Is that awesome? So aside from just having a great time with you guys, why are we here? What's this all about? Well, as I mentioned, this is kind of a deluxe version of our monthly user group. But for us, why we're here, you know, Power BI has become the centerpiece, literally, for the Microsoft BI stack. Who knew 4 years ago when we started really dialing in on Power BI that it would evolve in the way that it has to bring us to where we are today? I mean, it's quite amazing if you think about it. And as you guys know, if you've been following or immersing yourself in Power BI for any period at all, it just gets better and better and better month after month. So this is pretty exciting. Another thing that you'll probably think, yep, that's true, if you've been around CSG folks very often, we absolutely love what we do. And we're all about helping organizations prosper by empowering the individuals within these organizations to do more with data and actually make a difference. So we're all about that. We're committed to this community. You know, for over 3 years, three and a half years, we've been fostering this Power BI community in Portland. And, you know, that's inspiring to us because we're folks that love to continuously learn and grow, and we love to be surrounded by folks in this community who are like us. So as for you, why are you here? Well, you know better than I, but I suspect that you're probably here because you share our passion for growing and innovating, learning, and doing more with your data. Is that true? We also suspect that like us, you see amazing opportunities with Power BI and the Microsoft BI platform. And you're as excited as we are to make the most of these opportunities that are available to us now. So today and this evening is all about interacting with like-minded folks who are this community. And we hope that your investment in the time that you're spending here tonight is worthwhile, and that you also have some fun doing it. So the CSG Pro team, they're sprinkled around the room. CSG folks, maybe you stand up, and we've all worked pretty hard to make this happen. So a round for the team. And then finally, a round of applause for yourselves for taking the initiative to show up and be part of this community and to take the opportunity for this amazing learning that we're going to be exposed to tonight. So with that, maybe I will bring Greg up. Where's Greg? Where's Greg? Greg is our coordinator for the Power BI user group. Greg is a dynamo. He's like an unexhaustible source of energy that actually has been a huge part of making this event such a high-quality event. You know, Greg, maybe you could say a little bit more about the user group and different ways that people can engage?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're really lucky to have the community that we have here in Portland, all around Power BI. I think everybody is almost as passionate as we are, both around the tool and around just data analytics and business intelligence. So, you know, kind of hats off to everybody that has been making this happen. Also, I wanted to give a thank you to our sponsors that were able to, you know, bring this all together. Right Systems, that's here, Snowflake, Warescape, Lexicon Solutions, Wave Business. If it wasn't for the partnerships that we have in this community, you know, we wouldn't be able to put the food on the table, right? And so, again, and I hope the food was good. I see a lot of smiling faces out there. So, yeah, thank you, thank you. So without further ado, kind of want to start off and maybe introduce our local wizard. You might know him by the name of Brian Grant, the guy that has got the hat, the smooth look, the smooth feel. He's going to be shining a new light on Calculate tonight, and we're really excited to have him. And Brian, how about we just open it up to you?
Hold on while we get our audio video adjusted. Okay. Oh, yep. Okay. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay, fantastic. So my presentation tonight, first off, it's, well, you can't see it. It's on that. Oh, wait, no, it's on both of them. So my presentation is on Calculate inside of DAX. I'm calling this a visual guide. I have been assured by my copy editor, which is to say my girlfriend, that even though this thing was designed to not be very hand-wavy, so there's a lot of small numbers, it's still supposed to be legible. But if you can't see it, by all means, come up towards the front of the screen just to get a better view of it. Also, you should be able to sort of follow along with the story. I've tried to make the high-level points really big so they're easy to read, okay? All right, is everybody ready? Okay, let's do it. So, Calculate in DAX, a visual guide. To start off with, let's have some good news. Calculate allows you to do some incredible things inside of DAX, right? It is to DAX what the carbon atom is to chemistry, okay? It is to DAX what calculus is to physics. It is to DAX what the metaphor is to poetry. Everything in DAX revolves around the calculate function. If you can't use it, you can't really do DAX. So, what's the bad news, other than that thing I just said? The bad news is it's mysterious and very difficult to get your head around, okay? But, however, in the right light, understanding calculate is actually very doable. And that's what I'm going to try and do today. And you guys can tell me if I did a good job or not, okay? So, the path. We're going to be starting off by understanding the fundamental nature of calculate. Then we're going to understand the problem the calculate was built to solve. Then we're going to understand the mechanics it uses to solve that problem. And lastly, we're going to observe it solving that problem over and over again until hopefully it becomes a little bit of second nature. Does that sound good? All right. Let's start with a simple question. If I were to ask you, what's the temperature, other than hot, you might probably tell me the temperature for the room that you're standing in right now, okay? So I didn't specify the location, or for that matter, even the time. And if I was being kind of, what's the word? I'm on camera, so I'm going to not use four-letter words. If I was being a really smart something, I might say, well, let's give you the average temperature of the universe over the course of human history. That would be a more accurate answer to that question. But you and I all know that when somebody asks that question, they mean here and now, okay? So when you answer corresponding to here and now, that seems to make the most sense, okay? Because I didn't specify, you took the context of where and when the question was asked to implicitly modify that question. So what's the temperature becomes, what's the temperature here and now? In many ways, this is less accurate. I didn't specify that, but it still feels like the right answer you should give. So in regular life, the context in which a person asks a question almost always informs the response. So if I ask the same question in two different situations or contexts, I'm going to get different answers. Let's think about that some more. If I call 3 friends in 3 different cities and ask them, what's the temperature? I might get these answers. Sahani in Vancouver, Canada says 21 degrees Celsius. Toshi in Lagos, Nigeria says 24 degrees. And Mary in Santiago, Chile, she says 14 because it's winter down there, right? So I asked one question, the same question, and I got 3 different answers, but each one is correct because they were asked in different contexts, okay? If I follow up with, hey, what's the temperature in Barcelona, Spain? These folks might pull out their phone and I might get these answers. Sahani says 26 degrees. Toshi says 26 degrees. Mary says 26 degrees because they're all looking at Barcelona, Spain, right? So notice what I was able to do is I asked the same base question, but I'm overriding the where are you assumption, right? Notice the assumptions about time, which is to say now, and which units to use, which is to say Celsius, those are still in place because I didn't specify those, okay? So for people, when you ask a question, assumptions are made naturally based on where, when, whatever the question was asked, the context. However, we can add specificity to the base question to override one or more of these assumptions. Hence, the answer is always based on the question, the implicit context, and any stated context. The DAX engine, thankfully, has very similar behavior. So, With a simple question, it's kind of got three parts. Like here we've got what's the temperature in Barcelona, Spain? Well, there's the base question of what's the temperature. There's the natural assumptions, which is to say here, now, and in degrees Celsius. And then there's some overrides where we said, hey, in Barcelona, Spain, which overrides the here part of here and now. Okay? So with calculate, you could think of it as your as-if function, right? Calculate is simple. Go do this as if this. Go get the total sales as if we're looking at 2015. If you were to write that in DAX, it would look like this right here, right? That first argument is the thing that you want it to go do. The second argument is how you want it to do it. You want to override the natural assumptions about it. Let's look at another one. Go do this as if this. Go get the total number of returns as if we're looking at printers. Go get the total number of returns, go use that measure, but add product category equals printers, right? It's just that easy. That's how you want to think about it, right? The first thing is the thing that you want to do, and the second thing is how you want to modify how you do it. Okay? This is great, and this describes what calculate does at a high abstract level. However, just like any tool, if you really want to understand it, you need to start by understanding the problem it was built to solve. Okay? So to do that, we're going to need a data model and a pivot table. Hey, I've got those handy. Here's a data model. I'm going to zoom in on this one. I'm going to break my own rule here. And let's do maybe 150%, just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So it's a very simple data model, not quite AdventureWorks, a little simpler than that. We've got a sales table over on the right. We've got a product table on the left, and they're joined by these product keys, the foreign key and the primary key, right? This is a very simple table. It makes sense. Each sale is linked to one of the products in the product table, right? That makes sense. So let me zoom out a little bit here. And we also have a pivot table here. So I know this is a Power BI conference, but I use pivot tables mainly because it works in Excel, which is where I'm animating everything. If you want to think of this as a matrix, think of this as a matrix, okay? Same idea. So on this matrix or pivot table, we've got, let's see, what do we have here? We've got class across the top on columns, and we've got type on rows, right? So let's think about the world from the point of view of this cell right here, the one that I've got highlighted, the premium beverage cell, okay? Let's ask, what does the model look like from that cell? So over on the left is what the actual model is, but what does it look like from that cell? Well, it might look something like that, which makes sense, right? We don't want the entire model. We just want the view of the model that is premium beverages. That's how we're able to answer questions about premium beverages. Let's think about another cell, this one right here, for regular food. Well, the way the model looks in that cell is like this, just the rows associated with regular food. And if we pop over to this last one here, well, same kind of deal. Now we've got all the beverage rows. Does this make sense to folks? Is it intuitive? Right? Forget how it works. Just this is what you would expect, okay? So that's all well and good, but let's look at the problem of what sort of pops up when we think about the world from the point of view of this one right here, this cell right here. So this is what the world looks like from that cell, and it's kind of claustrophobic, right? Back here, it's like, oh, you got all these nice friends and all your little rows that help you out if you have a problem. Here, you basically got nothing, right? So here within this cell, I could see that view of the model. And from that view, I can answer a lot of things. I can answer questions about regular food just fine. I could tell you the total sales. I could tell you how many products you sold. I could tell you what categories there were involved in those products. But I can't answer how regular food relates to other aspects of the business. Because from this cell, the rest of the model doesn't exist, okay? I just can't see it no matter how hard I try, okay? This is actually a really big problem. This is a big problem because many, if not most, important business questions are about how numbers relate to other numbers, okay? So I'm going to move that up there. Say, let's ask a different question rather than just like the total sales. Let's ask, what's the total sales as a percent of all types, okay? Let's break that out into sort of two questions into some pseudocode. Well, if I could get what's the total sales and divide it by what's the total sales for all types, I could answer that question, right? Now, the top bit works just fine. I could get total sales for regular food. I've got that right there. There it is, the number 12. But if I want total sales for all types, I can't do it. I can't see the model in that way. I don't have that view of the model, okay? So if I could get it, suddenly I can answer my question, right? Now I've got 12, and now I've got 22. The bottom is the view for all types, right? Just like that. So the top one is the natural model view, what you would get naturally without doing anything. The bottom one is this new view that we're imagining, where we could see all types. And if I could get both of those views within a single calculation, I can answer my question, okay? Let's change the way we've got this question worded. So up top, we've got what's the total sales and what's the total sales for all types. If we break it out a little bit, we could say, well, all right, let's get the total sales, and let's get the total sales again, but let's do it as if we're looking at all types, right? And if you could do that, you'd have your answer, right? We get 55%. If we change our function to calculate, we understand now what calculate does, right? Calculate's going to let us answer that same question with a different view of the model. That's its purpose. That's the reason that it exists, okay? At a high level, this is how Calculate works, okay? So let's pop back here. To understand more about it, we're going to need to understand a bit about the mechanics of how those views get built. So let's give ourselves some space right here. So for each one of these cells, something is causing the model to look different in each one of those cells. And even if we don't know what it is, we can sort of assume it behaves a certain way. For the top one, something's filtering it down to premium beverages. For the medium, something's filtering it down to regular food. For the bottom one, something's filtering it down to just beverages. Well, those things, those are actually the filter context, right? So if you've heard the term filter context before, that's what the filter context is. It's going to filter down the model just to the appropriate view for what they want, okay? So if we just look at this one here, let's give ourselves some space, move things around a little bit, and let's get a better definition. A filter context actually looks more like that, right? A filter context is a collection of tables. Nothing more, nothing less, okay? It's a collection of tables that whenever you ask for a copy of a table in the model, like the sales table or the products table, it's going to go ahead and automatically interjoin all of the tables in my filter context with the table that I'm asking for to give me the view of the model that I want, okay? It's going to act as a filter or a lens, so you can look through the lens at the model and see the view that you want, right? The correct view, okay? Let's see it in action. So right now we've got our filter context. It's got type and beverage in it because we're looking at that yellow cell up there. We've got our model over there on the right, and we've got the copies that we're going to work with on the left, the blue ones. The first thing that happens when you ask for a copy of a table, it's actually going to expand the table, right? So any columns that are on the one side of a one-to-many relationship, which is to say any of the dimension columns, those are going to get brought into the sales table, right? That's what the relationship actually does. So if we see over here, we've got a one-to-many relationship between product and sales. All of these product columns are going to pop over here to sales, just like that, okay? So now, we can go ahead and just one by one go through our filter context and interjoin those tables with our model to get our new view of the model, right? So let's start up here with beverage. So we've got our first table. It's a simple table. It's got one row and one column, type of beverage. Well, where are our type columns? There they are. Okay, where are the values for beverage? Well, those are those right there. So we're just going to keep those rows. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, we're one down, one to go. We move over to our class table in the filter context. Well, there's the class column. Let's filter down to premium, just like that. And that is how we get our view of the model in DAX. That's what happens inside the engine, okay? So, when you look through, when you're in this cell and you're looking at the model, this is what the model looks like, right? If you could see it, this is what it would look like. Okay. And there you get that number 12. See, 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 12. Even if you're not a math major, you could probably get that one right. Okay. So, let's go look at another one. Now we're going to look at regular food, right? And we've got our filter context here of type food and class regular. Same deal as before. We're just going to get both of the tables. In DAX, you'll only get one table at a time, but I think it's useful to think of the entire model at once. It helps me understand it, right? So we've got the product table and the sales table. Let's expand the sales table, bring in all the columns from the dimension table, right? And just go one by one through the filter context. Okay, there's the first table, type equals food. Okay, well, there's the type columns, right? There's the food values. Those are the rows we're going to keep. Boom. Okay, now we're done. We're going to go through the next one for class of regular. There's the class columns. There's the regular values. We just go ahead and keep those. Boom. And now we've got our view in that cell, okay? In that cell of the pivot table, this is what the model looks like. So if we were to ask, what's the total sales, we'd get 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12, okay? Let's do one more, right? So let's add a slicer into the mix. So what happens when you click on a slicer? So let's start. We've got a regular old filter context. If I were to click on scone, control click on it specifically, to deselect it, I'd get something that looks like this. Boom, now we're getting all the product but scone. I added something to the filter context. That's going to additionally filter down my view of the model to be everything that's food and beverages, food and regular, but not scones, okay? So again, same old process. Oh, by the way, so we're working on the 32-bit version of Excel. It had a tendency to crash, as I found out before my presentation today. If it crashes 3 times, everybody gets pi. Let's see if we can, yep, there it is, it's all dead. See, yep, okay. 3 blue screens in a presentation equals pi. You're not actually gonna get pi, don't hold your, 3.14, well, we'll see if we can nail that one on the head. All right, so, oh good, I'm back here at the splash screen, that's really helpful, let's see. Okay, no, I don't need those. Okay, sorry, give me a second while I find where I was at. So, no, we're way past that. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, how about that? Is that it? We're going to jump ahead, and you guys are going to get spoilers. You're going to be like, oh, is that how the movie ends? Okay, how about this? Yeah, all right, we're close. So you could tell my excellent labeling job. That was one of those things I was definitely going to do before I did this. Okay, and yes, the problem is, yeah, okay, there we go. We're getting closer. All right, again, we've got 1 of 3, so keep count, everybody out there. It's bound by memory, as I found out when making this presentation, apparently. So somebody needs more memory on their machine is all I'm saying. Okay. 16 gig is just not enough. What is? Okay, so same old deal. We're going to go one by one through the filter context. We're going to interjoin each thing with the model, right? So there's food. Okay, we're going to interjoin the class of regular, get those rows. All right, interjoin product. Boom, there we go. That's how we get a view of the model. Okay, so I'm going to call this a second ago, I just called this the filter context. I'm actually going to call this the natural filter context. By that I mean this is the filter context that occurs naturally without you doing anything to it, okay? So let's talk about the natural filter context. This is the filter context each cell gets naturally, which is to say, it just happens without you asking for it, right? Every cell has a different one. It's like fingerprints, okay? So what contributes to the natural filter context? Well, let's look at this cell right here in Power BI. 40 minutes, or well, we're not 40 minutes in, 20 minutes in, and you finally get to see Power BI. What contributes to that? All this stuff over here, right? So whatever the intersection is on the matrix, right? We're looking at mountain bikes in Germany. Those things get contributed to the filter context. Anything that you've got sliced, like over there we've got bikes selected on a slicer, that's going to get added to the filter context. Any cross-highlighting. So if we click on high school, which I did, that's going to get added to the filter context. Visual level filters, page level filters, report level filters, they all get added to the filter context. Basically, anything that's going to reduce your model that you don't write with code is going to be added to the natural filter context, and hence the natural model view. Okay? So for each cell, the natural filter context creates the natural view of the model. I think I just said that. So let's think about this some more. There's our pivot table again. Let's think about all the natural filter context in that pivot table. They might look something like this. Notice each one gets a different natural filter context because they're all special, okay? And because they all get their own filter context, they all get a different view of the model. Let's look at the sales table. Boom. In each one, the sales table looks just a little bit different, as you would expect. That's how it works, okay? So what happens if you want a different view of the model than the natural one, the automatic one? Well, I'm glad that you asked. That's what Calculate's for, okay? Calculate lets you execute a bit of code in a different view of the model. Simple as that, right? And by view of the model, we mean filter context. View of the model is the thing that we want. Filter context is the mechanism that lets us get that thing, okay? So let's say that we've got some DAX measure. On the bottom, we've got something we want to do in the natural view of the model, but there's some other thing that we want to do in a different view. Well, that's the blue thing right there. And the second argument of Calculate is, what's different about that view? So you can imagine, like let's use this example right here. In both of them, I want to sum up the sales amount column in both of these instances, but I want to do it in 2 different views. Because for example, in this measure, it's the premium percent of sales. So I get the sales for just the premium items, and I divide it by the total sales. Simple as that, okay? So argument 2 describes how you want to change the view. And depending on what you're looking at, you're either going to see that called filter in the IntelliSense. In some documentation, you'll call it the set filter argument. That's the one that I like a lot. Here today, I'm going to call it the as if argument, because that's the way I like to think about it, okay? So, you all want to see it in action? Yeah! All right. Overdrive the microphone. So there's our trusty old model. It's got a one-to-many relationship. That's my favorite kind. So up here, we've got a simple pivot table. We've got beverages and food. They're on rows. And we've got a measure called mprem for premium. And it looks like this. And it's just to calculate sum of the sales amount, but as if product class equals premium. Okay? So let's start out with our natural filter context as we had before. But now, Calculate's going to say, hey, I'm going to change that filter context. How am I going to change it? Product class equals premium. That's going to produce my as-if arguments, right? My as-if arguments are going to look like that right there. It's a simple 1-column, 1-row table where class equals premium, right? There's actually a longer way you could write that out, but when you write it like that, that's what you get. A little teeny-tiny table. Kind of cute, okay? So Power BI, I should say the DAX engine, is going to copy the filter context and it's going to use your as-if to create a new filter context. Notice class isn't already in there, so it's just going to add it. Boom. Now we've got our new filter context. Well, cool. Let's go sum up the sales amount, right? And see if it can't crash Excel in the process. So there's the sales table, right? We don't need the product table, just the sales table is just fine. There's those columns, and we go one by one through the filter context. Okay, type of beverage, there's them. Class of premium, yep, there's them. Boom. Now we're done. We just go ahead and sum it up. 12. You guys see 12 somewhere else on the page? The other thing that I've got highlighted in yellow? Okay. There we go. That's our answer. That's how we got it. Okay. We can imagine too, like let's just make another copy of the natural filter context and get the sales table in that natural view. It looks completely different, right? Because the top one is the sales just for premium products. The bottom one is the sales for all products, or I should say beverages, right? So we got what we want. What's interesting is the way this view works, this natural view that we created, it's only visible in that first argument of calculate. So everywhere else in that formula, it looks like the bottom sales table, if you were to ask for the sales table. But in that one little pocket, in argument 1 of calculate, it's going to look like the top sales table. That's what you create. You create like a little pocket universe. Okay? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know what I was thinking there. Let's go look at a different one. So same thing, sum of sales, except now the type equals food, right? So we've got a natural filter context like we had before. And our, oh, hey, okay, 2/3 of the way to pi. Yeah, close the program. You guys should be happy for the pie that you're not actually going to get. Come on. Always have your files with you. Well, that's not working. All right, let's go up to this guy again. That's number 2. See, where was I? No, I don't want that. Okay, so I was going to show you, it was the exciting part, right? Say, all the calculate details. 26, 27? Yeah, there we go. Oh, no, we got a little more to go, but that's fine. We can keep moving forward like this. All right, so I know you guys were on the edge of your seat, want to know what happened. Well, here's what happened, right? So we've got our natural filter context over on the right. Our as-if is type equals food. Notice the natural filter context already has a table with type in it, where type equals beverage. Well, if there's a conflict, the as-if is going to win. The assumption is if you state it, that's what you want, right? So that type beverage in the copy becomes type food. Let's get this bar out of here, right? And so now we just go through the same exercise we did before. This is our new active filter context, right? We go ahead and sum up the sales amount, get the sales table. There it is. There's the expansion of it, all those dimension columns. And there's type equals food. And we just go ahead and do that. We sum that up. Come on. There we go. 20. And that's how we get 20. Okay? So let's do another one. This is kind of exciting. Let's do M all T. Okay? So in this one, we're going to do sum of sales amount, but now we're going to do all product type. So we start with our natural filter context, right? Calculate fires off. Says, all right, we want to change the filter context. So what's our as-if for all product type? Well, there's 2 ways to think about it. I'm going to show you the one you should start thinking about first, right? The simple one is when you use that all function, you get all the values in the product type. So if we look over here on our dimension table, for type, we've got beverages and food, and so that's what we're going to get. We're going to get everything, okay? We're basically going to say, here's our list of things that you're allowed to have for type. By the way, it's all of the types, okay? So when we create our new filter context, we get this new type equals beverage and food, and this basically says, hey, bring in everything. So some of you fancy people out there might be asking, well, wait, why would I bother filtering on something that says to include everything? Why don't I just remove the filter altogether? Well, in fact, if you want to get really fancy, the DAX engine has this optimization that says, yeah, indeed, if you ask to get all of a type or all of a table, it's actually going to clear that all the way out of the filter context, like that, right? Now, I actually still recommend you learn it the top way. The reason being is because you can use that all function in other places in DAX, and if you learn it the bottom way, you have to learn to yourself, or you think to yourself, wait, where am I using this thing? Is it inside calculator or is it somewhere else? If you learn it the top way, it's the same every time, okay? So, we now got our adjusted filter context. You guys are probably bored of seeing this by now. There it goes. Hey, bring in everything. That was an exciting filter. And we added up 42, right? Notice how we got 42, 42, and 42? That's because we cleared that product type, right? So if we zoom forward, try and crash Excel again. If we look at all the cells, right, they all start with a different natural filter context, but because each one has that as-if of bring everything in, it overrides them all to be the same thing, which is why we have the same number over in our pivot table, okay? So now we've got a new measure. It's called M and E. This is a very fancy measure. You guys have probably written this yourself at some point. You're getting the total sales just for the products that end in the letter E. Okay, I showed this to my girlfriend last night, and she was like, why in the world are you doing that? The reason I'm using this function is because in DAX, there's lots of easy DAX that you can write, and there's lots of hard DAX that you can write. There's not a lot of medium DAX that you can write. So this is an example of a medium difficulty DAX expression, so you can kind of follow along. And here I've got some notes that say the same thing. Why did it end in E? Because I could show it to you, and it'll make sense, okay? But at some point, if your boss comes to you and says, hey, could you get me a list of all the products that end in E? You're going to be a step ahead. Okay? All right. So let's break this formula out because this is a little different than we've seen. The reason I'm showing you this formula is up until this point, all of my argument 2s for calculate, they've all been this equals this, and they've produced a table somehow magically. That's this little shortcut that the DAX engine gives you because you end up doing that a lot. In reality, most of the advanced argument 2s, the as-if functions, you're going to be producing a table, right? And to produce a table, you're going to need a table function. So this is an example of that. So what am I doing in this function? Well, calculate sum of sales amount. You get that part. But how is this thing going to be different? We're going to get a table of the products table. We're going to get a copy of it, right? And we're going to filter it down to just the products that end in the letter E. And that's going to be our new as-if function. So let's watch that thing in action. Okay, there's our natural filter context. There's the measure. Hey, it turned black. That's cool. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get the product table. Now, you might think, oh, we're in the calculate argument. We're changing the filter context. Not yet. That's what happens to argument 1. First, we have to build how we want to change it. So we're going to get the product table. That's in the natural filter context, or the natural view of the model. So there's the product table. We're going to filter down to type food. Boom, boom, boom. Just like that. Okay, hey, there's our product table. And now what we're going to say is this filter function is going to add a column to that copy of the table with the definition right there, right? So we're going to add this column. I'm going to call it X because it's not going to be around very long. I'm not going to bother giving it a cool name. Just X, right? And it's going to have this formula value for each and every row, okay? So for the top one, it's going to get the last letter of the name and check to see if it's E. Sorry, Bagel, you lose. So L does not equal E. Sorry for Bagel. For scone, yep, E equals E. For brioche, yep, E equals E. So the first one is false and the bottom ones are true. So we're going to go ahead and just keep those true ones, right? Notice how the function is called filter, right? So when you create that new column, it filters on that column. You'll see a pattern emerge slowly over time. Okay. Oh, what did I turn on? I turned something on. Okay. So we're just going to move that down there. So now our as-if is going to be that right there, the thing we just created. So how does this behave? Well, we go ahead and create our copy. It's got type food. Notice how type is in our as-if, so it's just going to overwrite that, right? And this is our new as-if. Cool. Okay, we're going to give ourselves some room here because we're tight on space. I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, let's go get the sales table, expand it, and now we're going to interjoin each one of these, interjoin this table, another table. So there's the class, type, product, and product key. It matches those. We only keep those rows right there, which, by the way, happen to be only the products that end in the letter E. Yep, there we go. Cool. Sum it up. All done. 14. Easy as that. Let's look at one last example, right? This is a really fun one. Shows you something that's kind of cool about calculate. I haven't zoomed in at all this entire presentation, so maybe half of you haven't seen any of this. I don't know. I'm sorry. So I add this little definition right down there. Let's zoom in on it so you can read it. So we've got M average, right? This is the average product sales. So if you look up top, it's average X, product, calculate, sum, sales amount. All right, how do you think about these X functions, right? It's pretty simple. You read them backwards. Start at the end, okay? We're going to add this column to a copy of this crashed Excel engine. Oh, no. Greg, get the pie ready. Oh, there it goes. Well, at least I know where I am. All right. I smite thee. Okay. All right. One more. All right. No, I don't want that. So let's go find it. You guys know the name of the slide, right? It was something, 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 number, number, number. Oh, nope, not those. Oh, here we go. Nope. We did the E ones. All right. I think we're right here. Hey, that was pretty good. Okay. So we're going to add this column to a copy of this table and average up the results. Is it that easy? Yeah, it's that easy. It's as easy as that. Okay. Don't enable content. Bad pop-up. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get the product table. right? This got no calculator around it, so we're just going to get it in the regular old filter context or the natural filter context, the natural view of the model, right? So there's a product table, type equals beverage. Well, we filter down to just those rows. Cool, there's our product table. Let's bring this over here. Now we're going to add this column to it. I'm just going to call it X because it's not going to stick around very long, okay? And what's the definition? Well, it's calculate sum of sales amount. Now this is confusing to most of you in this audience, I hope, right, if you're paying attention. Up until this point, I've said with calculate, you give it something to do and you give it a way to change how you want to do it. Well, where's part two? How do we change how we want to do this thing? I'm glad that you asked. So when you use calculate, one of these things called an iterator, right, what it's going to do is it's actually going to take that right there as our as if. It's going to take the entire row. This is called context transition. We take the entire row and that becomes our new as if. So calculate sales as if what? As if that row, as if just for coffee. Okay, so let's go ahead, take that, move that down there. Okay, we get a copy of it, add our as if to override everything. So now we're just looking at coffee. And this is our new filter context, our active one. So we go ahead and get the sales table, filter it down, blah, 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 blah. And now we've got 10. There's the total sales for coffee. We do it again for lattes. And again, that entire row becomes my as if argument right there. So put that right there. We got a new active filter context, which I did not rename in here. Ooh, shame on me. Oh, there it did. Okay. So now we're going to filter this thing down to just lattes. Yep, there we go. And 12. So then we've got 10 and 12. Total sales for coffee, total sales for latte. So we added that column to the product table right there. And now what we're going to do is average it. The average of 10 and 12, any math majors in the room? I know there's at least one statistician. 11. Okay, that's how we get 11 up top. Okay, there's 11. So, one last thought. Up until this point, I've been showing you how to use calculate to create a new view of the model, right? But it's always been based on the natural filter context or the natural view of the model. You might be wondering, hey, could I create a view inside of a view? Well, of course you can. You could do something just like that. So you take the calculate, you put a calculate inside of it. Hey, how about that? All right. So now we've got a formula where we start with the natural filter context. We create a filter context around that, the purple one. Then inside of that one, we create this new yellow filter context. What's important to remember about this or to note about this is the yellow one is based on the blue one, which is based on the green one, right? That's the way that it actually sort of gets created. That may seem trivial right now, but as you get further along, that's going to be very helpful. Okay, so what did we learn? The nature of calculate. Calculate is our as-if function. It answers some question, overriding bits of the context under which it was asked. The purpose of calculate. The problem that it solves is that while each cell has a natural view of the model, many calculations need access to new views of the model to help create meaningful insights. The approach. It works by adding or overriding tables in a copy of the filter context to create a new view of the model. Argument 2 determines, 2 or more, determines what tables are added or overridden. What does the new view look like? Argument 1 is, what question do you want to ask inside this new view? Okay. That's it. That's calculate. Thank you all very much for your time. Questions? By the way, if you thought that row by row thing was super duper cool, check out Matt Allington's video on it. He's got one on YouTube. I don't have the link because I couldn't get it because my internet was down. But if you search YouTube for evaluation context in DAX on the Microsoft Power BI channel, you'll find it. It's very cool.
Cool.
All right, questions?
Does anybody have questions? We got a nice little handy mic.
Don't be
Those
shy.
are all just over everybody's head like mine.
So, Brian, you're...
Wait, Rachel.
What was really pivotal to your presentation is that you were looking at the expanded
Yes.
table, right?
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's move back a little bit and find a copy of that. It's back here somewhere. So notice here, the sales table down there, it expands, right? That's important because you probably have memorized that filters travel down from dimension tables to fact tables. That is the mechanism by which that happens, right? So when you expand that thing out, suddenly when we interjoin all of our tables in our filter context, it can match against things like class and type and product key. Like if I rewind right here, if I tried to interjoin my thing in the altered filter context, the adjusted filter context, on that sales table, it wouldn't match anything because the class column isn't there. The type column isn't there. The product column isn't there. The product primary key column isn't there. It's only once I expand, based on my relationship, that suddenly this filter starts to actually do something. Is that sort of what you were after?
Cool.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. How did you get your girlfriend to watch this?
Ooh. Well, so what I did is she's better at English and grammar than me, so I told her that she would help me find all of my mistakes. That was sufficient enough to be like, oh, now I'm very interested. Now I'm excited. I could do that. I mean, it's not true. She's very sweet. She did it because she loves me, and I love her. Aww. Thank you.
So what happens if you have like a large table and you're doing calculate like this? Because it looks like it's creating tables for each like filter point in a sense. So does that affect the processing time?
Technically it does, but one of the benefits of the DAX engine is it's optimized to do exactly this. So there's a lot of shortcuts behind the scenes and optimizations behind the scenes that make this work very, very fast. If those optimizations weren't there, yeah, you're right, this would crawl at a snail's pace. You wouldn't be able to do it. Yep. One more?
So if you look at your calculate statement, what about if I have two different things that I want to filter on? So you had the example of E.
Yeah.
What about if I want to filter on E and A and I don't know exactly what those are beforehand? How would you handle that?
So if you want to filter so if you don't know what they are beforehand, you mean like you select them in a parameter or something like? No.
Or something else determines what I'm going to filter on before I even look at it.
Yeah, so what you would do in that situation, I'm going to create a copy of this so I don't break the whole thing. Oh, this is a terrible example. What you would do, a couple different ways to do it. The easiest one, which I would recommend, in DAX you can actually have variables, right? So you could have variables that you could push scalar values into or table values into. So up at the tip top of your formula, you would go get that value that you wanted to work with, dump it into a variable, right? And then you could use it in your filter. That's probably how I would do it. Is that sort of what you were asking for? Yeah, okay, cool. I should say also with that filter function, I used a very simple example because it's far away and it's hard enough to read. The entire point of that is that you could write really complex expressions around that. Yeah? Okay. Question? I saw a hand go up somewhere. Do I get to eat my ravioli? Great. Well, thank you all very much. Where is this guy now? Sure, why not?
We're gonna take a little setup break. We have a little bit more food that got delivered if people are still hungry. So just 5-10 minutes, and Adam Saxton will be up next. right, we're gonna get started soon. You guys want to take your seats? Oh, he just went to HDMI. It doesn't work. Oh, it is being recorded. It's, yeah, it'll work. That's what they said. I have no idea. Go ask them real quick. Okay. One more minute, we'll get started. All right. So, how was that Brian Grant for you? Yeah, it was pretty good. All that calculate stuff and beverages and ease. Oh, man. Sweet stuff. Well, we got another great presenter here for you guys. We are so lucky to have Adam Saxton, aka Guy in the Cube. He has an amazing blog, guyinthecube.com. You can find him on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. He probably is going to make his own social media platform pretty soon here. Okay, and I think that social media platform's Power BI. Yeah, sure. Well, he is going to give us a great recap over what happened at the Business Application Summit. So just in case you missed it, Adam is going to give a pretty great recap. So let's give him the floor.
Yo! What's up, guys? I'm Adam Saxton. Thank you. All right. So if you're not familiar with me, I am Guy in a Cube on YouTube. That's my primary thing. It's not my day job, though. My day job is I am a PM on the Power BI CAT team, which is a part of the Power BI product team, and so that's what I do during the day. This is my night. So this is my Adam Saxton PM on the product team. This is my Guy in a Cube look. All right. All right. So I've only got one slide for you, and then I've got all demos. First off, before I get into it, how many of you were at the Business Application Summit? All right, not many of you, so this is going to be new. This is great. All right. First off, what I want to point you to is the Business Application Release Notes. How many in here know about this? Yeah, that's what I thought, almost nobody. So every time I talk to customers, they're like, I want to know more about roadmap. And I'm like, do you know about the Business Application Release Notes? And they're like, no, what's that? This is it. This is our roadmap. This was released in April the first time, and we are going to continue to release this, edit it, update it. This has our roadmap in it. So this includes Dynamics, it includes Power BI, it includes Power Apps, Flow, all of the things under the Business Applications group at Microsoft. So we just released a new version of this on Monday. So this is the October 2018 release notes, and this includes everything we're going to be doing hopefully over the next 6 months. So if you want to know what we're going to be doing, go check this out. And it includes some of the things that I'm going to be showing you today. The demos that I'm going to be showing here, some of it has already been released, and I will point that out. Some of it's not out yet, so you're going to see some new things. All of these items were demoed on Monday or roundabout way at the Business Application Summit. We made the comment of the things that were shown on Monday in the demo that was done at the keynote, that we're not going to show you anything that's not going to be out longer than 3 months from now, right? So it's coming very soon. All right, with that, let's jump in. And I will jump to the first thing. Okay, how many in here have seen the Relationships tab in Power BI Desktop? Right. How many in here have used this with a lot of tables and it gets really cluttered and it's not really great? Right? Yeah? All right. So this is kind of typically what you see. You'll see a table in here and you'll see some relationships. It'll all be great. But when it gets really, really bloated, it gets hard to use. So let's bring this out and just kind of show you. Whoa, look at that. So, I've got tables in here. This works just fine. If I switch to the default view that's available for you today, this is something that's coming. It's not out yet. If I switch to the normal diagram view, this thing would be a little sluggish. It wouldn't really behave. But you notice it's kind of snappy. I'm kind of going in. Things are highlighting. It's kind of like a Christmas tree. It looks great. But here's the other thing is I can create smaller views of it. Ooh. Look. Just 4 tables. So I can consolidate the views of my relationships, right? And, I may have a lot of relationships. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgments. This is a judgment-free zone if you do have a lot of relationships. But if you want to single down on the relationships that are important to you, you can do that in this. It's great. And I can create multiples of these just by clicking on the plus button and have isolated views of my relationships, right? So we're targeting like bigger models, right? We want you to do more with Power BI. We're trying to scale up and do more. So this is a way that you can do that. Pretty cool, huh? This is coming soon. Like I said, this is not available yet, so stay tuned on that. But this is a lot. All right, next up. Let's talk about big data, right? So I've got a model here. This is based off of data off of an application that's tracking drivers in a business. So something similar in your mind would be like Uber, Lyft, that kind of service where they pick up passengers, drop them off. And so what this does is it tracks it over time and finds out the distance that they went and the drivers that are there. And it has drivers that are there today and those that have left the company. And so what we want to do first is explore like how big is that data set? Like how many rows are here? So let's just take this. I'm going to grab location count, and I'm going to casually drag this onto our canvas like you do with everything else. Nothing, no big deal. It just comes right up. Let's switch this to a card, and oh, look at that. That is 1 trillion rows. Look at that. Have you seen a model like that? Just comes up immediately. Immediately. That's amazing. This is all right. You may be thinking I'm probably faking this somehow, right? But let me show you. I'm gonna select the measure here and look at the DAX expression. Count rows of the table. So this is a legitimate count of the rows in this table, right? So this is really 1 trillion rows. This is a quarter of a petabyte of data sitting in a data source that I just dragged to the canvas and dropped it on there, right? It's amazing. So, we're looking at this. This is not big data. This is massive data, right? This is, big data is just like so 1990s. We're doing good stuff here. All right, let's explore this a little more. So we are going to take distance traveled, and we will drag this on here, and we'll do this by activity date. Nothing big deal. Let's change this to a column. Look at this, just slicing and dicing like it's butter. Nothing wrong with that. All right, and we're gonna add miles per job. Look at that, it's gonna come up, boom. And now we're gonna filter this down a little bit and just show how many drivers were actually left, or which drivers that left the company is what I wanna see. So we're gonna do, I'm in desktop, I gotta do control click. There we go. And then we're gonna go in and select a given segment that's out there. So let me get this. This is gonna be right before Christmas, right? So, and these are drivers that drove over 50 miles for the items that they had to drop, for the people that they had to drop off, right before Christmas. That's a long haul, right? I don't know that they want to be doing that. So let's go ahead and select that. We'll narrow it down a little bit. And then we are going to grab, what did I want here? We're going to grab distance traveled again. All right, we're going to change this to a table. And then we're going to drag the driver name on top of that. Look at that. Like I said before, just slicing and dicing like it's butter. This is just a little clicky, draggy, droppy. It just works, right? This is Power BI at its best. Big, massive data, right? This is 1 trillion rows, and we're just slicing and dicing it, right? This is amazing. How are we doing this? So we're going to go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to pick Abigail Johnson. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drill through and find out the details of what this person did and maybe understand why she left the organization. All right, so this is running right now, so let me explain what was happening. So this is a quarter of a petabyte of data. This is sitting on top of a Spark cluster in the cloud, right? So we're doing direct query out to the cloud. So the 1 trillion rows, this is not inside a Power BI desktop. And it's sitting on, I think, about 23 nodes in this Spark cluster to get it to run. And then what we did is we have a new feature. It's an aggregations feature. And what this allows me to do is to actually cache data locally for the aggregations. And that makes it snappy, right? So this is like 80% of your dragging and dropping will actually just respond like you would expect. Very snappy, very quick, and it's easy to use. And then when I want to drill down into the data, that's when it's actually going to switch from that imported mode over to the direct query mode. So that's great, right? And then we just get some data back. So this drill through was actually querying the Spark cluster directly. Everything else you saw before this was imported data inside of the Power BI desktop file itself. That's great. And then we can see a little bit. It looks like Abigail started down in the bottom of Memphis and then had to go all over right before Christmas. Look at all these drops that had to be done within 50 miles. Each drop was about 50 miles, so no wonder she quit, right? She's probably just going to go start her own business. And that's okay. We understand that, Abigail. You're all right. All right, so the other piece I want to explain with this too is that, and I don't have a file to show it, so I apologize for that. But along with this aggregations feature, the other thing that is coming, and this one is actually out today. So the aggregation feature, what I just showed you here, this is something that's coming soon. What is available today, though, is the ability to mix direct query with other sources. So I can do that. That's all right. You can clap. You can do it. It's great. Everybody wants this, right? So I can do direct query and mash it up and bring it alongside of another direct query source, right? Also, I could say, hey, I want to do direct query off of maybe my Azure SQL database. It's a big database, or Azure SQL data warehouse, or the database of your choice. This is a judgment-free zone, right? That's okay. And then I can pull in, maybe I've got some associated data that's great, and I have that in this lonely Excel file on my desktop. And so I want to import that Excel file into my Power BI desktop and then have that alongside of my data that's in the cloud that's doing direct query. So I can have direct query alongside of import and bring those together, right? So that's amazing as well. So we've got not only having multiple data sources that are in multiple storage modes, we also have the ability to have what's called a dual mode, where I have a single table that's including cached aggregates as well as direct query. So local and direct query working together, and then both of them side by side, and I can do what I want now and expand the horizons of my reporting. So that's awesome. So this new feature that's available, where I can pull in multiple direct query sources or direct query and import sources, that's referred to as composite model. It is a preview feature that is available inside of the July 2018 desktop, which was released on Monday. So you can download, install that today. You need to go to the preview feature options and turn on composite models in order to use this, but it is available today. So be sure to check that out. All right, moving on. So let's look at some of the things that are available in that July 2018 release. So first off, what we've got is the ability to use stepped line charts inside of our charts, so the step line itself. So right now we've got a normal line the way we have. If we go to formatting and I go down to shapes, I'll zoom in here in a second, I can go and turn on stepped. So when I do that, it will change the line and the way it works. And now we can see that it actually shows the value at the top, and then it will drop off in between the gaps to bring it down in line with where the next value will be, instead of the normal ragged line positioning that it had before. So that may be something of interest to you. And then another item that we have here is the ability, there were some updates that we had for the visual header. This is an item you have to turn on with inside of your options. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So if we go to File, Options, and then if we go down to Report Settings, there is an item here called Use the Modern Visual Header with Updated Styling Options. This gives you a lot of choices. So now the visual header is actually floating, and we can now change items within it. So we can control which buttons we show in the visual header. We can also change the transparency level of it. There's a lot of options that are available. So let's take a look at that. So if we select a visual and go into the formatting option again, down below, you will see this visual header, and you can determine whether you want to turn the visual header on or off, which is awesome. if I go and expand that, we can change all sorts of things. So I can do things like change the background color, I can change border, transparency, icon color, and then I have all these options for all the different buttons within the visual header that I can turn off or on per visual, right? And then when I publish that to the service, it's going to honor that. So that is new and exciting. And that is visual header. So let's go in and look at some tooltip options. So one of the things I have in my visuals is that I can go in and I can disable the tooltips themselves, right? So in this visual, I have tooltips off. So when I hover over the visual, I don't see anything, right? Nothing comes up. All right, we got a clap over there. Good. That was made just for you. All right, excellent. And so, if you think those tooltips are annoying, then you can get rid of them. It's all right. The other thing we did, and this was a big ask, is we released a feature called Report Tooltips. This allowed you to change the default tooltip, which was something like this, where it's just kind of, it's sitting out there. It's not really sexy, right? And what we did was allow you to do your own report inside of the tooltip. And we had this for charts and visuals, right? And everyone loved it. But we got one big question with it. Why can't we do this on tables and matrix? Well, now you can. There you go. But wait, there's more. All right, so we've had there's been discussion about why is this whole background thing there? It's the color, it doesn't match with the report. And also the ability of, I want to do something else with it, like say maybe put a background in there, right? And I can change up what I want on there. So we have options now for the backgrounds and wallpapers and whatnot. So I can change the wallpaper to whatever I want. That wallpaper area is the background outside of the report. So I can change that color to match what I want it to be if I've changed my report color or whatever. Or I can just slap in my own image and have that match the entire area of the report canvas, what's behind it. So now you don't get these ugly gray bars there. You have control over that. So that is another item that was very highly asked for. But wait, there's more. All right. Of course, where is it? Nope. All right. There are other things. I'm just not going to show you any. So if you want to see all of the items that are available inside of this release, be sure to go check out the blog post, and also which is out on powerbi.com/blogs. And then also be sure to download the latest release and update that. If you're using the install from the Windows App Store, so the one that is automatically there, then that will automatically update for you, and you don't have to do anything, which is great. But if you've downloaded it like I do with the MSI file, then you will have to install that manually. So just go to Help and About and check out the version that you have. Okay, so that was the desktop, and those were some cool features, and there's more in there. But I want to move to this cloud service. And so one of the things that we've done is we've had a lot of talk about workspaces, and a lot of people have had challenges with app workspaces inside of the service, and this was because of the fact that the app workspaces were bound to what's called an Office 365 modern group. And what this did is it's a group that's collectively used across Office 365, so this includes SharePoint Online, it includes OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, Power BI, all these services. And so what would happen is if I created this group inside of Power BI, all of a sudden I'd see it in Teams, I'd see it in SharePoint, I'd see it in Exchange. And then conversely, if I created a team in Microsoft Teams, all of a sudden it would show up in Power BI. And a lot of people complained. Another issue with this was because of the fact that I could only add individual users to that group. And this was a pain because I don't want to add 100 individual users, right? I just want to add a security group. And so what we're doing with modern groups is an update where we're calling this the evolution of workspaces, right? So there's a new workspace that's available, not today, it's coming very, very soon. And this will be out in public preview soon. It allows you to create an app workspace that is no longer bound to the Office 365 modern group. This lets us do all sorts of crazy things. So first off, what's gonna happen initially when you do this is if you go to create app workspace, you're going to see the normal screen. If I go through and use these fields and then actually save that, this is going to create the old workspace. So if you want to create the new workspace while it's in preview, you have to hit this awesome try now, okay? And then the try now will take you to another screen, which will actually let you create the new workspace. So let's do Portland. I doubt that's taken. It's available. And then what I can do here also is I can update the image. In the old workspace, I actually had to go to Exchange Online members area to actually update that image. It was kind of a pain. I can just do this now inside of Power BI. I can add a description, and then, here, let's see, Portland is awesome. And then I can also do some things if I want dedicated capacity premium. I can choose to have that on or off, and then I can hit save. And then it's going to create my new workspace. Now, what I can do from here is then I can go to Workspace Access, and I can play with my members here. I can add individual users. I can add security groups as well. So if I have groups of people I want to add here, I can do that. If I have, maybe if my administration group, they have a security group of all the admins in the organization, I can just add that security group and make them an admin of the workspace without having to add a ton of users. The other thing I can do here is I've got different types of access here than I had before. So in the old workspace, I had admins, and then I had members, and that was it. And those members, I could say they're either all edit, they all have edit capabilities, or they all have read access. So today what I can do on an individual basis is I can say they're an admin, they're a member, which means that they can add, remove people, they can, they can't add, remove people, that's the admins. They can add content, they can edit content, they can share content with other people, they can publish apps, they can remove apps, they can update apps. I also have a contributor. The contributor can only edit content that's in the app workspace. They can't do anything else. That was actually a direct ask from some customers where they wanted some more fine-grained capabilities. Now, what we don't see here is read-only members, and that will be coming later after the initial preview. But these are a way that you can actually get some more fine-grained capabilities off of members inside of the app workspace. So this is a very welcome change in the service, and a lot of people have been asking for this for a while. So these new app workspaces, like I said, will be coming out very soon, and you'll be able to use those with inside of your organization, and so that is awesome. All right, so the other thing I'm going to show has to do with premium capacity. How many people in here are using premium in their organization? All right, we've got a couple people. That's okay. That's okay. And so one thing with premium that we had that was very much asked for is the ability to create premium nodes in multiple regions, right? And so today, if your tenant is inside of the United States, but you have users inside of Europe, there are compliance items that will force you need to keep your data in Europe, right? But if I create a premium node and my tenant is in the US, my premium node is in the US, so that's a problem. And so one of the things we did is added the capability of choosing which region your premium node is in. And so if I go back to the workspace I just created, we will go through and we will look at workspace settings, look at premium. Yes, I know it's part of capacity. Let's go to, where is it? One second. All right, let's go up to the admin portal. Remember, the workspace thing is preview, so it may not do exactly what you want it to do. All right, let's go into this premium capacity node. And what you'll see here, once it goes back, is you'll see that my region is East US 2 for this node. And so when I go to create a new capacity node, I'll actually have a drop down there where I can choose the region that I want. And so that allows this to actually go into other regions so that my capacity node could be in Europe, but my main tenant and users are in the US, and everyone's happy, including the government, which is nice. Okay. And so one thing you'll see here also is when you go to select the dedicated capacity for your new workspace, is you will actually see in the drop-down now, we also show the region that it is part of. So when you go to create that or select that region, you'll know where it resides, which is great. All right. So there are other items that we had inside of this month for the release. There were a lot of items. There were items for updates for administration and governance, and so we had updates to the admin APIs for Power BI as well. I won't bore you with showing all of those. We also had a release of PowerShell commandlets for Power BI. How many people in here love PowerShell and use it? Oh, not many. Okay. It breaks my heart. So the PowerShell commands, though, allow you to get information. They basically wrap all the APIs, so you don't have to write a lot of code. It makes it super easy. But one of the things that it'll let you do also, if you're an administrator or if you know the administrator for your organization and they're just depressed and feeling low and down because they can't see all the items in their organization, tell them to go look at the PowerShell commandlets, because we now allow you to do this as an administrator, and they can go see all the workspaces in their organization now as an admin. They can go see all the reports, dashboards, and data sets as an admin. And they can also do things like when someone leaves the company in their My Workspace and they publish the production report in there, which they shouldn't do. And then they leave the company, and now we need to get it out of there and stick it somewhere else so we can manage that. You can do that now too, which is awesome. We can also manage those app workspaces as well with the new workspaces that are coming. So what that means is that, hey, the person that was the sole admin of the app workspace, which you shouldn't do, they can go in and they can add another admin user to that app workspace and then get access to it. And that could also be a security group, so that's good too. So there are a lot of options that are coming with this. We're going to continue to update that. Today, it's just focusing on the content. Later, it's going to be the gateways, and so you'll be able to see all the gateways in your organization as an admin, which is a much requested item. So you can go ahead and play with that. Even if you're not an admin, you can still go use those PowerShell commandlets to explore items. You just won't be able to see everything in your organization. You can see the stuff that you have access, and they will work. So that's awesome. All right. That was a whirlwind tour. I think that covers all the main things that were there. The other thing we did show, and I wanted to be able to show this to you, but it required different builds of Power BI Desktop to be able to show the composite model and the other desktop items that we showed. We did talk about new enhancements to the just more what's the word I'm looking for? Quality of life items for Power BI Desktop. One of the things we showed is the capability of more PowerPoint-like features as part of that. Oh, actually, I do have one item I can show you. That's right. Not PowerPoint. This is a quality of life item. So let me go back. All right. Not the stormtrooper. Not the stormtrooper. That's not. They're going to miss you anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, so one thing people have requested before is, look, I've got all these cool reports, right? And I want to be able to do something with it, like, say, print it on a piece of paper. Yay, printing capabilities, but not really just printing. Watch this. File, export to PDF. Ooh. Let's do export to PDF. Let's go little PDF, go. There we go. It went through, and look at that. It looks just like, let me go down a page. Oh, look at that. But don't get confused. You can't click. It's not going to do anything. It's fine. But you can do this now. So we can export to, you can't do this now. This is actually not in the July release. This is coming soon. But you will be able to actually export that to PDF and then be able to print to your heart's content if you want to, waste paper. Because you're going to be disappointed when you can't click on things. But a lot of people have been asking for this. And so now you will be able to do it, and it will look as if it does inside a Power BI Desktop, and you can print. So that is awesome. There were other items just like that we showed off that are going to be coming in the next couple of releases of Power BI Desktop, such as the ability of when I move a chart into the item, with inside of PowerPoint, it'll show you guidelines of where it's going to snap. That's going to be coming to Power BI Desktop, along with just other cool things that are more like that PowerPoint-like experience, because that's what people have asked for. So, okay, so I think I'm a little early, but are there any questions of what's going on? Oh, Paul. Oh, yes, Paul. The reporting services. Reporting services goes back a long ways. I remember doing this back when I first started support at Microsoft. And you could create pixel perfect paginated reports. Try saying that 3 times fast. And this allowed you to actually just use the design service, create those awesome reports, and then be able to print them off, be able to do all sorts of things like export to PDF and whatnot. That is coming to Power BI. So the ability to publish paginated reports that you did with reporting services is now going to be inside of Power BI, the service. So I'm not talking Power BI report server on premises, it's gonna be in the cloud. So this means I could take that RDL file for that paginated report, and I can publish that to the cloud and run it in the cloud service. And those data sources that are there, I can go through the gateway to get my on-premises data, and so on and so forth. It looks great. And right out of the gate, you will also be able to export it to Excel, PDF, all of those items. So that is coming. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I know that's near and dear to your heart. Yes, sir. All right, sorry. I can repeat the question if needed. So the question was, is this a premium-only feature? The answer is yes. It is a premium-only feature. And some of that is due to technical reasons, but it is going to start on a premium basis. Good question. There's a question up here in the front.
All right. Wait.
Oh, wait. We got a microphone coming for you.
Sorry, microphone.
I said, you'll probably hate this question, but
I love every question.
will print to PDF be in the service too?
I don't have good news for you. So it will for RDL reports. So, that's something that obviously a lot of people are asking for, and it is something we do want to get to, but it's not going to be there right away. So we got one here. We'll come back to you.
How
Yes, sir.
about expanding the export limit?
Oh, that's another question I get all the time.
That's
so I have a follow-up question for you. How much do you need?
Well, for me, not a lot.
Okay, so you're good, right?
Million lines.
So
No,
yeah,
30K is not very much.
I know it's not. So right now there are no plans to bump that up. I know there are discussions always going on about a lot of things. I would say, and this is actually a great segue, if you go to, let me pull this up, ideas.powerbi.com. So a lot of the things, I'm going to come back and directly answer your thing here, but just overall, what is ideas.powerbi.com? What this is a way for you to submit your items and requests directly to the Power BI product team. So some of the things I've showed are actually some of the top items that people have requested. The whole export to PDF and be able to print that inside of Power BI desktop, I think that was like the number 1 or number 2 idea item with the most votes inside of ideas.powerbi.com. So we are listening. We are trying to do that. I know for sure there is an idea item to bump up the limit of the export, right? And so I would say make sure you're voting that up if that's really something passionate for you.
Everyone vote.
All right, we got some other things. I know there's another one over here. I'll let the microphone man make the decision.
So, first of all, I work for Xerox, so thank you for allowing people to print.
We're keeping you alive.
Might keep me alive for a couple more years. Thank you.
I did that specifically for you. That's right.
Now, my question is around, so you're trying to cram a lot of stuff on each one of the screens, and one of the questions we get all the time is, what does this measure exactly, specifically? Is there a way to get anything to allow you to put like definitions for metrics as you hover, like in tooltips to hover over things? Does that exist? Or can it?
Good question. I want to say yes. And if you go to properties, you can actually add a description for items in your model. Is that what you're asking for? Yeah, no, that's not there. Yeah, ideas. I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to shortcut a lot of the questions if you haven't figured that one out yet. But we can continue.
I think Brian actually has a trick for that.
Okay.
Yeah, can you just say a little bit about the migration of workspaces? So you got a workspace set up,
Yes.
and you now want to move to the new one.
Yep.
Do you rebuild it entirely new?
So when the public preview first comes out, it will be a manual migration. So that's a good question. It will be a manual migration at first, which means that you do need to create that new workspace and then manually copy that content over. As we get closer to GA, we are going to look at ways that we can automate some of that, and there will be a point where there will be a cutoff and you will have to switch. Another thing in line with that as well is that if anyone using organizational content packs, please say no. Oh, there's one person. Okay, you're not going to like this news. Those are going away and are not going to be usable in the new workspaces. But we're going to have more details around like options for that, and also way more details on the migration options. So what is not going to happen is they're just going to shut off for you without notice or without some timelines to get all this done. And so we are going to release, when the public preview comes out, expect a blog post to come out along with it, which will also talk about the migration things and give you some idea for upcoming timelines and what to expect. And also in terms of the cutoff for all of that, we're not going to do that until we feel right and that customers are in a good spot. We will have to make the decision at some point, but we want to make sure everything's where it needs to be before that happens. So good question. Uh-oh.
Turn it off.
Ron broke the mic.
I did, But yeah, composite models for
Yes.
live connection to on-prem SSAS.
Yeah.
Stumped
Anyone
out
want to
of there.
guess? Ideas. Yeah, so that's not going to be there. Right now it's focused on direct query and import. So ideas if that's something that you're going to want. Uh-oh, follow up.
Sorry. Direct Query has had some performance issues in the past. Is that not,
Absolutely.
I realize that this
Yeah.
whole thing is kind of a different paradigm, enterprise reporting, et cetera, but it's kind of heavily rely on Direct Query performance, right?
Indeed it does. And so direct query in general absolutely has potential for performance issues. I see it a lot. We do have a white paper on direct query. Let me pull this up. If we go to documentation, which I know nobody reads. It's just like the EULA. We just say yes. So if I go to Power BI Service and I go to, where is it, Resources, and then I'm going to see white papers. So in there is a white paper on direct query. It's actually labeled SQL Server 2016 Analysis Services Direct Query. Don't be fooled, it's still relevant to Power BI. And it goes through a lot of things in terms of tuning your direct query items. So what you don't want to do is you've got some OLTP database that's got a really wide table, a lot of rows, and you just take that whole thing in. I can guarantee you're not going to have a good day, right? So there's some things you need to think about in terms of modeling and what analysis services is actually going to expect when it touches a relational database through direct query. So you're going to have to be mindful of that. Casper de Jong also has a blog post called To Direct Query or Not to Direct Query, and he goes into some of that as well in terms of performance tuning. So those are all things you're going to have to keep in mind, especially when you start doing things with composite model. There is another relationship type that actually comes with composite models as well called many-to-many to help you avoid doing bridge tables. Yay. This will also end up doing some things that could affect performance as well. So you're all going to want to play with composite models. I know that. But be very mindful of the performance aspects of it. And so you're going to have to really look at that data warehouse or database and do some testing, make sure that it's actually performing okay. The other thing I would say is maybe give your friendly DBA a heads up that you're going to be doing this so that they don't come and yell at you. So it's always thoughtful. Good question. Did you have another question as well, or did we touch on it? Or up here in the front? I saw your hand earlier, so I didn't want to forget you.
Yeah, what was my question? The API, does the PowerShell scripts you mentioned, are those same capabilities available in the API?
So the API, yes, so these PowerShell commands wrap the API. So those are absolutely available. So all of the admin stuff are available in the REST APIs themselves. So yeah, absolutely.
And then I had one quick question on the groups. Does the OneDrive capability go away with the new modern groups?
Yes. So the reason for that is because we are no longer creating the Office 365 modern group. That's part of that. And so the OneDrive space capability came with the modern group piece of it. So yeah, so we're going to not have that anymore.
Any more?
Oh, we got one right here. Hang on.
Do you want to summarize data flows, and when do you think they'll go GA?
Oh, wow. I definitely can't answer that last part. And honestly, whenever we say GA, so first off, it hasn't previewed yet. So whenever it comes to GA, it's one of those things where we want to let it bake for a little bit, and we'll make a decision at some point when the GA is going to be. So I would say we may have some ideas or hopes of what we want that timeline to be, but it all depends on what happens with it. So the idea of data flows is this is going to be a new item that comes with as part of the Power BI service. This will be available obviously with Premium, and also the idea is it's going to be available outside of Premium as well. And this is all about, the best way I can explain it is think about, we brought self-service to actually data analytics with Power BI, so creating the data set and the data model. Think of data flows more as bringing self-service to the data warehouse type role. Right, so that's what it's going to do. It's about bringing your data together, creating entities on top of the common data model, and then enabling Azure services to also use that data outside of Power BI. And so we've got all these services now that we're trying to bring together and allow that to all work together, and then also build up Power BI to visualize on top of that on a common data model schema that we're going to be creating. So I don't know if that answers your question enough. Yes? Okay, good. Excellent. Going once, going twice. No? All right. Here we go.
Thank you. All right, everybody. That was awesome, by the way. Amazing. I hope everybody's excited as much as we are for the tool just getting better and better, especially the data warehousing piece, really becoming self-service. Anyway, we're going to take another 10-minute break, you guys. Freshen up, and we'll be right back.